45th General Assembly, as always. Our order is to the swearing in of first our executive board, starting with our president and VPs. We swear in the assembly under the president, and then we can move forward with any voting or action items. So this first one will be for Keegan. My note, as always, I think we say some version of this every year just because we're on Zoom. I want to remind you, everyone talking over each other to swear in can be quite a problem. So you're more than welcome to, when it's your time to swear in, turn your camera on. We just need like your hand up and to mouth those words along with the person who is reading them, just to avoid some crosstalk. If there's just a few of you and you decide to crosstalk, not my circus, not my monkeys, just a request. Keegan.
Uh, in the interest of keeping things timely, because I know we have a fairly full agenda, in traditionally we have done 3 stages of swearing in, president, presidents, followed by the assembly. I would recommend that we combine president and the vice presidents into one swearing in, and then I will officiate the assembly. That way we're only doing it twice instead of 3 times, and it does add up.
That is completely allowed via the rules. So if that is not a problem for our advisor who is tasked with swearing in to swear in all the executives, we can move forward with those items handled in simpatico. Any objections to that shift?
Just the question of what the slight wording difference is,
Mhm.
and then also the paragraphs that differ at the beginning.
Right.
Would you like me to read the whole paragraphs together and then like the separate ones? How would you like me to do that?
You are more than welcome to read them together, because then we know we've done both.
Okay.
All right, perfect. With that being said, what I will do is I will switch our slides. It'll start with the president's response, and then it will move to the VP's response. We are all welcome to take part in that. I will mute myself so you don't have to hear all of us talking at the same time. With that said, TJ, I believe you are the person who is swearing people in. I'll gladly switch us forward.
Okay. Uh, all right. Hello, everybody. I am TJ. So I shall read this just this paragraph then, not the above paragraph on the document.
You can read
Okay.
the above paragraphs on the document. Those paragraphs are the back and forth.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, I will read those then. So this is for the presidents, and then I will read the vice presidents immediately after. Um, Keegan, would you please raise your hand, your right hand? Um, you have been constitutionally elected president of the graduate student government. It will be your duty to preside at meetings to enforce impartially the bylaws of GSG, to function in every respect as the chief administrative, managerial, and executive officer of the graduate student government. It will be your duty to guide the officers and directors in developing the aims and objectives. You are charged with the responsibility for the proper functioning of all committees with the support of the committee chairs and chief of staff. Keegan, you should at all times be watchful for activities, projects, and programs which will be helpful to you, to your executive committee, committee chairs, assembly members, the graduate student government as a whole. You must become familiar with Robert's rules and the graduate student government's bylaws and constitution. In the last analysis, the ultimate success of this organization rests in your hands. Keegan, are you prepared to take the oath of office as president of the graduate student government?
I sure am.
Okay. All right. Please hold. For the vice presidents, will you please raise your right hand? The office of the vice president is an important post. It will be your duty to preside in the absence of the president, as such, to conduct the duties as are specifically prescribed in the student government's bylaws. You must immediately familiarize yourselves with the rules of the parliamentarian procedure and the bylaws of the graduate student government. Are you prepared to take the oath of office of the vice president of the vice presidents of the graduate student government?
I am.
I am.
All right. For the president, please repeat after me, Keegan. Um, In the presence of honored guests and members here assembled,
in the presence of honored guests and members here assembled,
I, Keegan,
I, Keegan,
do solemnly promise and pledge that I will faithfully execute the duties of the President of the Graduate Student Government
do solemnly promise and pledge that I will faithfully execute the duties of the President of the Graduate Student Government to the best of my knowledge and my ability.
To commit myself to the Student Government's Code of Ethics,
To commit myself to the Student Government's Code of Ethics.
further the objectives of this student government, and assume full responsibility for this honored organization.
Further the objectives of the student government and assume full responsibility for this honorable organization.
By the authority vested in me, by the graduate student government, I now proclaim you duly installed as president. Congratulations, Keegan.
Thank you.
Vice presidents, please repeat after me. In the presence of honored guests and the members here assembled, I do solemnly promise and pledge that I will faithfully execute the duties of the Vice President of the Graduate Student Government to the best of my knowledge and ability. To commit myself to the Student Government Code of Ethics.
To commit myself to the Student Government Code of Ethics.
Oh, we're going on.
Further the objectives of this student government and assume full responsibility for this honorable organization.
Further the objectives of the student government and assume full responsibility for this honorable
For this
organization.
honorable organization.
By the authority vested in me by the graduate student government, I now proclaim you both duly installed as vice presidents. Congratulations.
All right, now it's everyone else's turn.
Mhm.
Okay, you've just heard this process. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me, the oath of office. All of you assembly members currently here. All right. In the presence of honored guests and members here assembled, I do so solemnly promise and pledge that I will faithfully execute the duties of the assembly as a program representative of the graduate student government to the best of my knowledge and my ability. To commit myself to the student government's code of ethics, further the objectives of the student government, and to further the objectives of the student government, and to serve my fellow graduate student community through engagement with my constituents and voting according to the preferences of my constituent body. Fantastic. By the authority vested in me by the graduate student government, I now proclaim you all duly installed as program representatives and voting members of the Graduate Student Government Assembly. Welcome and thank you.
As previously stated, thank you, by the way, Keegan, and welcome in members. I'm very excited to have you. As previously stated in the agenda, I like to make space. You will see that, again, this will happen again after the next election, but I would like to give space just to go through to other people who are in the executive body as staff. So you'll see a brief overview of their roles. If they want to jump in, I will also give them space as well. Thank you, by the way, to the Rules Committee for making the slight adjustment to our agenda. So we have two executive staff members, the Director of Operations and the Chief of Staff. The Director of Operations is one of the many faces that you probably saw when you first got into this meeting. That is Lizzie. She is our current DOO, a long-time person in GSG, has held the position that I currently hold amongst doing a bunch of other things. We are beyond excited to be working with Lizzie again. Of an important note is Lizzie has a ton of responsibilities, all aligned with the day-to-day operations of GSG. This is kind of an overview of a mix of constitutional expectations and things that the DOO just inevitably ends up doing. You've likely seen her in our inbox as one of those people who's getting people to and from the airport. She does a great service. Keegan has done this service before us. It is quite an expansive role, but not an uncommon one given our format. An important note is that Lizzie does a lot with scheduling, agenda planning, document management, all of our public facing stuff, social media included. It ends up going past Lizzie. I want to give Lizzie a little bit of time to talk about this as well because some positions have changed. There may be more stuff. So, Lizzie, is there anything that you would like to add to this brief intro?
I was not expecting to be asked, but hi, yes, if you need anything to be operationally get done, if you want a meeting room, if you want food, if you need something organized, something on the website, which I know needs to be redone, something on the social media, etc., like let me know and I will see that that gets done.
Yes, Lizzie was not expecting to be asked because Lizzie is also, as an ex officio member, is not like setting rules, so didn't see the agenda that we approved. Which, by the way, thanks Rules Committee for helping me get the jump on Lizzie for this first assembly. Now she'll be ready for the second one, and it'll be even more chaotic. But for the people who were there, Rules Committee members likely know Micheline. Micheline is going to be our chief of staff, working within committees and around committees, as well as supporting the DOO this year, doing a bunch of other organizational work. Among the roles that are given to the chief of staff include, but are not limited to, those necessary for assisting the DOO with day-to-day operations, some project and task force oversight when moved. She also oversees all of our committee movement. So anything that you would normally talk to me about may not necessarily be something that I handle. She tends to be the person who you will go to for questions about committees, conversations between committees. And according to our constitution and bylaws, she also chairs a legislative leadership committee, which is to say all of the chairs of committees meet with her. So as far as committee work is concerned, you will see me do some things, but that is entirely an area that is overseen by Micheline, which Micheline, do you have anything to add? I want to make some space for you as well.
I think you explained it pretty well. Hello, everybody.
You will see more of her as we get committees formed. I just like to really give people space while I have a little bit of control of this agenda. With that said, a quick report of the chair. These are important things. I don't mean to lump them all together. It's just kind of a necessity after a very long summer. So first of all, GSG has been operating throughout the summer to complete the following task, no particular order. You now have access to all of these things through the agenda, and later today you'll have access to any and all information necessary to get you to and from GSG meetings. We have operated to get the 2025-2026 calendar approved. Now that that's approved, you'll have a copy of it. You'll know when we're meeting. Our rules approval has been a big deal. Not listed here is, of course, that the election committee has been working to get election stuff ready to go for the beginning of the semester, and an assembly toolkit, which is included in your agenda materials. If you're a person who's not used to using Google Docs, that's okay. Just know that there are tabs to the left. You can use those tabs to kind of see all of the meeting materials. I will send meeting materials like that normally. That way, everything is in one place and we don't have to worry about things being missing. The VPLA speaker and chief of staff are collaborating with the president to also reopen parliamentarian role. This is going to help us with some secretarial and rule keeping duties in GSG. It also allows us to give some people who maybe want more view of what the leadership looks like, what the structure of the assembly it looks like, to kind of get involved in that way in GSG. People may not want to do it. People may be differently involved, and that's perfectly fine. For what it's worth, the parliamentarian is kind of spelled out in our bylaws. You will have access to the link to that document, which can be edited by way of motions and votes within the assembly. And when it comes to our constitution, votes throughout the graduate body. This description of the parliamentarian is uniquely flexible because this appointment is predominantly a volunteer one. It shifts your role in the body to be working alongside me and Micheline to kind of keep things in order. If there's any interest in that, I encourage you to go ahead and have a conversation with me and Micheline about it. We would love to talk to you about how we can best support GSG, keeping kind of structure in mind. With that said, the summer updates and executive actions item, that's a big deal. I'm going to read through it because I need to. So the executive board gathered during the summer of 2025 to address several pressing issues that could hinder or delay the assembly. As documented by the speaker, the executive board completed the following actions, which the president effectuated on August 8th, 2025. A note that is in the agenda that I just need to keep saying because otherwise people forget. Executive actions are those items undertaken at the president and executive board or committee's direction in the place of the assembly when a recess or another item circumvents the body's ability to act quickly. When y'all are in recess, when you're doing summer things, the e-board is in, acting quickly, acting on your behalf. This matters in part because there is a check on this process, and one of the few checks that we have for something that's kind of loosely defined and gaining definition by way of votes is that executive actions are set to expire at the first meeting that we are having such action come forward, which means once I read this executive action, all that stuff stops existing. Everything expires, which means we have to do all of that work over again. Let's see here. I'm gonna go this way. Sorry, I've got one pop-up that's just blocking my screen. There we go. The executive actions for the summer included the formation and operation of the elections committee before we started the session on August 16th. It helps us to get a significant need to hold elections early in the school year finished up. This committee is going to reform at the end of our meeting today because it needs to. Same with the rules committee. This formed early because we needed to get calendars, rules, and other items done. It's going to reform at the end of this committee meeting. And of course, the executive board had to make a slight adjustment to shift the vice president of financial affairs and student fee matters from a paid position to a volunteer position for like highly procedural reasons. That shift terminates upon this meeting. So the VPFA will switch back to being an hourly position. By the way, thanks to the VPFA for doing all of that additional work, volunteer, you're awesome. Other less ambiguous activities, things that come out of the elections committee, or excuse me, out of the executive board, they come to you through addresses and through statements from the DOO, the president, and so on. So executive actions, I will come forward and tell you because they have a constitutional place. Everything else you will likely hear from Keegan, Lizzie, Micheline, Sydney, and anyone else that we may bring in to clarify what's going on. With that said, that makes this executive action expire. So you now know why there's an action item on the agenda to do a thing that's already happening. With that done. Also, please feel free to keep track of what's going on in the chat. There are people with way more experience in the body who may be pointing out, hey, these are things that are a little gray for you. Feel free to read that. I can't see it because of the way my screen is. So there's two pieces of old business to get to. It's an annoying thing, but the first is the results from the general election. You have in your documents the results of a constitutional amendment proposed by the 2024-2025 GSG Constitution and Bylaws Review Committee. It didn't meet the minimum threshold of 1/20th of the currently enrolled graduate student body participating in the vote. So the referendum is invalid. It needs to be resubmitted during the next general or special general election. The action item that is before you today is going to be consideration of the constitutional amendments. You are not going to vote on this constitutional amendment today. A motion is necessary to consider a virtual vote on the ballot from a voting member. It needs to be constitutional amendments if the election ballots this fall. TLDR, would anybody like to make a motion to have a virtual vote on considering constitutional amendments on the upcoming ballot? Yes, Nora.
Motion to consider virtual votes on the upcoming ballots.
Any seconds?
Oh, I'm Nora. I'm an epidemiology representative.
There you
Whoops.
go. You're good. Any seconds to that? A second cannot come from the e-board, so you must gather your voice to a second, Nora.
I'll second.
So
Oh,
Great.
amazing. Okay, with that first and second motion, I will ask, or actually procedurally, it only takes unanimous consent. So there may be unanimous consent for this. I'm going to ask if there is any opposition, all in favor, all opposed. Is there any opposition to the vote on this measure being taken online? We will allow 30 seconds for consideration of unanimous consent. I'm just scrolling past faces, don't mind me. Wonderful. Okay. I'm seeing no opposition, so we will pass that action with unanimous consent. The executive board will meet to discuss when and how the manner of that vote so that it can be on the next ballot for this September. Be on the lookout for more information. Be aware that we will be sending that vote document via email. It may be a Google form, Qualtrics, depending on what we need, but be aware that that vote and the additional information on those questions will be coming to you after this meeting and after the e-board approves that ballot. With that said, you also have, I just am going to let you know, you also have access to all of these documents. I encourage you to feel comfortable reviewing the constitutional, the bylaws committee report. The Constitution and Bylaws Committee report is included, specifically the Constitution portion, which would need to get ballot approval. If there are any adjustments that are made to the bylaws, you'll see it in the toolkit, but I'll say it again. That's stuff that for the most part can be done in-house by way of an assembly vote. It requires a little bit more of a vote share, but we can talk about that if it comes up. The only thing I want to focus on now is letting you know that that particular ballot will take place. I'm looking around real quick. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, things to be on the list? With that said, anybody have anything from old business that I have not added that should have been considered? Wonderful. Okay. Our next item, oh, I'm doing chaos on time, but that's perfect. Okay. The next item that I want to bring forward is out of necessity. It's item 4.2 on your agenda. With the election ballot, I want to let you know that there's voting info that will be coming out. On or after today, you'll see a call for nominations announced. That has been approved by the election committee along with the following dates. August 25th to September 8th, nomination period. Anytime in that 2 weeks, if you want to nominate, you are more than welcome to. Please, I encourage you to talk to your friends, talk to your program, get people involved in GSG. It really will help us out. Nora, I think I see your hand. Yes, Nora.
Yes, hi, my hand is up. Hi, this is Nora. I'm a PhD representative for the epidemiology department. And I just got an email from Professor Britt Saxvig, who is the dean of the School of Public Health, or Director of Graduate Student Services. Anyways, she's making all of the incoming SPH graduate students, actually not EPI, so SPH students doing a scavenger hunt, including following GSG on one of our social media platforms, including Instagram, Facebook, or our YouTube channel, which I didn't know we had. So yeah, that's all.
I love that, and I am willing to bet that Lizzie and Sydney and Keegan also had a deep smile, and Micheline was probably right there with us. I can't see them, but I'd be willing to guess. And if your department maybe has something like that happening, maybe you encourage your department to do that with GSD. We would love that. Keegan.
I just wanted to mention there is and Ivy was probably going to mention this as well, but I just wanted to explain it because it is a little unusual. As far as the elections go, because we are calling a special general election, which is okay, so in GSG, there are 3 types of elections. There are general elections, which is how all of you got elected, and that happens at the end of the academic year. Then there are special elections, which happen when there are vacancies during the year that are filled on a program by program basis. And then there are special general elections, which are general elections just held at an unusual time. The information you see on the screen right now is a special general election. And we are doing that because, as you can see, our numbers are pretty small right about now. That's because there is some voting communications snafus that happened last semester, and we are not at a particularly functional size. So that's why we're doing this. But because it is a special general election, if it was just a standard special election on a program by program basis, we would not require anything extra. Elections committee can handle that internally. But as it stands, we will actually be needing to vote on it as a body. It doesn't have to be a piece of legislation. It's just a vote. So Ivy will do that. But just so you know, so you're not confused, wait, hold on. Do we have to do this with every election? No, you don't. It's just when special general elections happen, like now.
I'm so glad you did that because you just made my whole next paragraph mean I don't have to read it. What Keegan just said. It is very important that you participate in these votes, but they're not materials at all. Instead, they are just simple votes. We don't have to worry about doing any additional stuff, and we don't worry about doing this outside of the special general election circumstance that we're in. Was there anything else? Old business is kind of our space for getting some things that are out of the way done. So if there's anything else to review, I want to give a minute for that. All right. So seeing none, we are going to move to new business. New business is kind of a big deal for us today, mostly because there's a lot of reforming to do. Um, of note, this is going to be a kind of important thing that and by kind of important, I mean really, really super important. So every member of GSG is expected to sit on at least one committee. Those committees could include rules, budget, finance, governance, legislative affairs, and so on. Committees are pretty much the workhorses of GSG. They review legislation, they draft proposal, they provide recommendations, they are useful tools for us. And some of them are constitutionally required to form or begin formation at our first meeting. It's kind of chaotic, but it is the nature of the beast. And I kind of love the way that it's drafted. It's a pretty good Constitution draft. With that said, we are going to go in order to develop slates. Those slates will be what we vote on. As each slate gets voted on, you can consider that something that essentially I hand off to the chief of staff to confirm that we have made those decisions. The chief of staff then implements, hey, welcome to this committee. This is kind of your role. And we have conversations from there that are with Micheline. You will be talking to me as a completely different kind of speaker rules committee person. So we're going to go in order. This is agenda order. It's kind of just based on the order from the Constitution. So forgive me for being a little bit prosaic there. So your first action is going to be toward the Rules Committee. I want to say that this is kind of an important point. These are kind of those 3 checkpoints that we have in our Constitution. I'm not going to hammer it home. It's just important to know that everything can kind of be reviewed. Membership is open to all graduate students. So if you see somebody who's interested in GSG but doesn't want to run for elections, is a little bit concerned, encourage them to get involved in a committee. It's a super easy way to get started in GSG without making a monthly commitment as we do when we go up for elections. And of course, we have to maintain a certain level of membership. So you'll see me kind of pushing for us to get a certain number. It is because every committee needs at least 3 members unless it's specified in the committee's description. So you'll see each committee come up as normatively written, and this is how we'll keep track. With that said, the Rules Committee is one of the GSG's central standing committees. It functions as a gatekeeper for legislation. We do a lot of editing for bills. We tell people whether or not they're actually meeting the requirements that are set up in the rules. And it reviews all items subject to the Assembly. That includes the agenda and placing items on the agenda. So being a part of the Rules Committee helps you keep style, keep consistency, and keep the Assembly working. This makes the committee responsible for screening legislation, maintaining consistency in formatting, and determining the order items appear on the Assembly agenda. The formed Rules Committee has been the person or the group of people that approved this agenda, which is the standing agenda for August. But moving forward, as that committee reforms, it'll be reformed with me again as a chair. I'll be serving as VPLA and Speaker of the Assembly. My vote is null in the Assembly, but in that particular space, I am a vote. With that being said, we will move forward with developing a slate. You'll see like this, oh, how many players are ready? It is just to keep track of how many people are in. Please feel free to get in, because what I will do is for each of these committees, you'll see an option to put your name if you're interested in that committee. That will be essentially adding yourself to the slate. We will vote on that slate afterward. With that being said, yeah, ignore if it says max points. That's just me not pressing the button. Oh, okay. So you have 30 seconds. If you are a person who's interested in the Rules Committee and being added to that slate, all you need to do is write your name and program code. We'll give 30 seconds for this. I can reset this timer if needed. Actually, you know what? I will reset this timer because I don't like that it's going that fast. Kind of rude. Nora.
Hi. Yes, hi, Nora, epidemiology representative, PhD student.
One moment, actually.
All
Yes.
representatives have to be on at least one committee, right?
Right, correct.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you think wisely. Give me one moment, actually. I just need to change a setting. I don't know why it decided to do that way. There we go. Thank you, by the way, Rules Committee, for giving me a little bit to work with here because Lord knows I am bound by chaos. Let's see here. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's try that one more time. You might see yourself kicked out and kicked back in. It is perfectly fine. I'm not trying to do it more than one window. Okay, cool.
Are we only forming the 4 committees in the agenda today? Okay, thank
Correct.
you, sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm trying to finish. I got a little having access connecting the quiz issue, but that is fine. Let me see here. And actually, for time, let me make sure that I can get this just to reset. Maybe that'll be a little bit easier on everyone. Aha, there we go. Cool. Sorry, I have like a little, takes a second to reset. I'm gonna have to remember this somewhat. If you're within the sound of my voice, know that I am resetting and I just learned how to press reset on this and I've used it forever. So you can learn something new every day. Okay, with that said, present anyway. Yes, okay. Sorry about that, y'all. A little bit of a technical snafu. At least I kind of put 5 extra minutes in here in case something like this happens. So I'm feeling really good about that. Okay, so you now have the slate for the rules. Just to be clear, to clarify Nora's point, there are a bunch of committees that we make during our first meeting. These 4 are the constitutional ones, so we'll focus exclusively on them for this meeting. Once we have a fuller body, we will then divide up a little bit of the workload amongst those broadened numbers of committees that we still have to fill. So this is just to fill the seats that we have. With that said, aha, no, I'm not. Liar. What other window? Be so for real. There we go. I knew that it was going to do something. It always does something with tech. Okay. So you'll see the rules committee options. I appreciate y'all. If you want to be added to the slate and you did it before, just type your information in again. Again, you'll just want to put your name, parentheses, program code. Sorry about that. And that'll be 90 seconds instead of 30, just in case you are considering. The rules committee, for those who are wondering, like I said, because it has to review agenda items, review legislation. So be aware, it does a lot of work. It also meets monthly. We have to meet before each committee meeting. So you're making a good commitment to help me navigate the universe. No expectations that we get any more than the 3 that we need, but I really would prefer if everybody who wants to be involved with that committee does so. Again, meeting at least once a month, at least 5 days before each assembly meeting. You have 30 more seconds. Also, one of the things I say jokingly, but also seriously, the Rules Committee will have a conversation about the time that we want on these votes. I kind of went for maximum time. That's fine for today. We'll have a conversation about what the time should be for votes. Thank you. With that, 30 seconds up. Like it says, there is no correct answer, but this will be the slate that we are considering. Micheline, who has served as chief of staff, serving on the rules committee, Nora in epidemiology, and then Michael over in, I never remember CMPL because there's two CMs. Okay. But this is our, sorry, I'm just going to be real with you. These are our three people. Unless there is opposition, we'll consider this slate. Does anyone a motion to ask unanimous consent for this slate to be transitioned to the e-board, to the executive committee? Someone must make a motion. I cannot motion.
Oh, motion, are you talking
Yep.
about representatives? Okay, Nora,
Yep.
epidemiology, motion to move our names to the e-board.
Yep, right on the money. Any seconds?
So a representative who also got sworn in with me would second
Perfect.
by saying second.
Yeah.
If they wanted to.
Any second. Okay.
I heard someone whisper second.
I also heard that, but
Ruth, I saw you didn't like a little emotion
Well,
and then raised your
yeah.
hand.
Yeah, so am I recognized to speak? That's the reason I was wondering, can I speak or not?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm Anirudh, representative of cybersecurity. I second this motion.
Absolutely perfect. Then with unanimous consent, this is moved forward to the executive board. The executive board will be able to, sorry, I'm shrinking things, so forgive me as I pull unanimous consent as if it is a dual role, but it is so ordered. This will move forward to the executive committee and to the chief of staff for consideration and oversight of the committee slates. You'll hear the same thing happen again, so be prepared. The Elections Committee. The Graduate Student Government Elections Committee oversees all of the electoral process for GSG leadership positions and general positions. The committee ensures elections are conducted fairly and transparently, handling everything from nominations and campaign guidance to balloting and certification of results. Their goal is also to create a level playing field. There's no political party branding, and enforcing alphabetical ordering of candidates helps to keep us a little bit less biased over here. These efforts also help to ensure that all students, regardless of their background, have a fair opportunity to run and participate in GSG. Again, you'll have some time here. I'll skip us along if I see the number stagnate, but you have up to 90 seconds to write your name in. If you are a person who's interested in election committee, you are more than welcome to serve on that committee. Give it just a second to learn and take its time. I really love Mentimeter, but sometimes it does stuff like this. And again, you just put your first name, your last name, and put your program code in parentheses. We'll give up to 90 seconds for this. Elections Committee has a lot to do at the beginning of the year this year, but at the end of the year also ramps up as we get ready for a president, for our vice presidents, and so on. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm
hey,
sorry, Alan?
sorry, I just joined. Actually, I'm at my internship right now. That's why I joined a bit late. I wanted to ask how, like, is there a link or something to join this committee? Because you mentioned enter your name and a program, but should I just mention it in the chat or somewhere else?
Yes. So if you don't have access to this Menti and you're looking forward to joining the committee, what I'd ask for you to do is to reach out to, if it's the rules committee, I ask you to reach out to myself and Micheline, but all of the committee requests can go to Micheline. That is her area. This is just our slate from the assembly. So the assembly can vote on specific members that it adds. The additional people that end up on the committee would be approved by either the assembly or by groups of people. Micheline is one of those people who oversees that committee process. So
Okay,
I
understood.
would
Yeah.
encourage you reaching out to her as well if you
Okay,
can't access
understood.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Of note, also, the election committee tends to have anywhere from 1 to 3 of the executive officers on it, so that it's very easy to get to a quorum. Those executive officers, if you're a person who runs for election, you're not in the process of determining who gets the vote, right? You step out, but this is an important component. The election committee slate includes Keegan and Sydney. I will be jumping over there as well. Keegan serves as a temporary member until we get an additional slate informed. Since this slate matches the slate for review from the executive action, we're going to need a motion to approve the slate. Is there any motion to approve this slate? It does not list the VPLA, but it will have my name on it as well. And I think technically, since this is a slate, the executives are able to, since the executives are in it, if the executives want to move on that, they can as well. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I had to check myself there. Yeah. Thank you, Keegan. Right.
All right, I motion to move forward with the slate if no one else is.
Sydney, that is so great. Any seconds? And all you have to do is say, I have second. I love it. I love it. All right. With that said, the Elections Committee slate as entered with the VPLA chairing per the Constitution and bylaws will, or not chairing, with the VPLA sitting. Thank you. Gosh, I'm reading two things. It is to move forward to the Executive Committee and therefore to the Chief of Staff where it may be considered for sitting. Let's go here. Budget and Finance Committee. This will be another chaotic thing because you will see a certain number of people. And as I was on the Rules Committee and sit on elections, Sydney sits on Budget and Finance. So even if you don't see the name, know that you have a chair. This committee is chaired by the VP of Financial Affairs and Student Matters. It's a Graduate Student Government Standing Committee. It's responsible for management, oversight, and allocation of GSG's financial resources. They prepare the annual budget for GSG, fiscal legislation, and funding allocations in accordance with the Constitution and bylaws, any legislation that involves our money, fee allocations, supplemental funding requests, and so on is going to go through this committee before it even touches the Rules Committee or any other committee. So it's a super important committee, especially as events come up, people ask for funding for grads and so on. You'll hear a lot more about this committee from Sydney sitting as chair. I just want to make sure that as you're building the slate, thinking about what the time requirement is, that you're aware that the Budget and Finance Committee has a few kind of big ticket items like its budget that it needs to consider. With that said, you are more than welcome into the Budget and Finance Committee if you would like. There will be a short timer. You'll have up to 90 seconds. If you're a member, remember to put your first and last name and in parentheses include your program code. Is it sounding like a repeat? It is. Enjoy your 90 seconds. I'm going to have to also ask the Rules Committee if during the votes I'm allowed to make the Jeopardy music. I feel like they would say yes. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Let's look here. Okay. And of course, if you aren't a person who's been looking at committees, this first meeting is a really good opportunity to get that one committee that you need. There's one more committee that we're going to be considering, but I want to make sure you know that if you haven't sat on any committees, you need to sit on one. It also looks like Sydney is going to have quite the fun group, as it seems to be getting a lot of names. Love to see the names. Come on now, let's go. If you don't have your cameras on and you can't see it, Sydney and I just did a little shimmy, which I think we've done every other day since we sat. Oh my goodness. All right, with that being said, the Budget and Finance Committee slate is being entered as follows. We have oh my gosh, we do have 8 people. I love this. This is great. Definitely Lizzie and not Keith. Okay. Well, I will certainly allow for the interpretation of this slate and that specific one as is the right of the chair. I am not the chair of that committee, so I'm not going to make that my problem. Are there any motions to move forward with this slate?
Motion to move forward with this slate.
Any seconds?
I second the motion.
Absolutely perfect. With that said, this slate is going to move forward to the Chief of Staff for consideration and effectuation. The Chief of Staff will make sure that this is set up properly. And the communication will go through the chair, which is constitutionally appointed as the Vice President of Financial Affairs and Student Fee Matters. Long title over, y finalmente. Oh, that says Rules Committee. Why does that say Rules Committee? This shouldn't say Rules Committee. I will change this in our final document. The Governance Committee, as it says in that little paragraph, is the Graduate Student Government Standing Committee responsible for maintaining the integrity of GSG's governing documents and overseeing representative accountability. They review the Constitution, bylaws, and other governing documents of GSG, recommend amendments as necessary, and oversee matters related to membership and representation. This is a very important committee when it comes to everything from our baseline information sharing to the impeachment process. I say that this is important, but it also exists in a liminal space. As you'll see from our constitutional amendments and so forth, you'll kind of see that our body is really leaning into a three branch of government-ish circumstance. It was in some earlier slides. I just want to make it clear that this is, even though it's listed as a committee now, that designation could change over the course of a constitutional amendment. Think of this as our judicial board. There's a lot of work that could go into it. Governance committee can be extremely active during any given year, or could be relatively sedentary, meeting only when necessary and required. So this could be a good opportunity for those of you who want to get involved, have a more judicial angle, but maybe aren't necessarily enthused by the idea of, reading a bunch of legislation or trying to make the numbers work on a budget. An important note is that unlike the other three committees, which have set chairs but not necessarily a set membership, there is a set membership for the governance committee. It's set in the bylaws. It needs to be 7 members. And so you all only have 3 representative seats. So the currently enrolled graduate students who are not in GSG, not elected members of GSG, will fill 3 other seats. Those are appointments that are made by Keegan, and the executive board seats a person that would be our director of operations, Lizzie. So this requires interaction from at least 3 people. If you are one of 3 people who has not signed up for something, that's fine. What we'll do first is we will take this slate normatively. If this slate is in any way a problem, if we have 4 people, I will ask if there's any person who would like to remove themselves from consideration. Otherwise, we would have to have a fully formal election by the assembly. If the slate is fine and we have all 3 seats filled, then the fully formed election is not necessary. With that said, no, I love it when it says players. I'm so sorry. With that said, as per usual, if you'd like your name to be added to our governance committee slate, it notes one of those 3 slots. Enter your first name, your last name, and your program code in parentheses. If we do not fill this, it will have to shift to our next available meeting because this committee must form. If you do not have a committee seat and you are a representative, I encourage you to put your name here so that you are not trying to jump into committees during our next session, which could be a little bit chaotic. With that said, you have about 60 seconds left, and I want to have another drink of this drink that I got for free. Save your points. Or don't. It's you. Do what you need to do. Cool. All right, we have 20 more seconds. If there's anybody else who would like a seat on this, I encourage you to put your name down. We will reconsider if we don't get to 3 either way. Ooh, there we go. Cool. And you're right, there's no correct answer. All right, perfect. We have 1 person on our slate for governance committee. That means we'll have 2 spots that need to be filled during our next regular session. But that also means that we can have an election for those 2 spots. Given the need to form the slate for the governance committee, is there anyone who would like to make a motion to accept this first nominee as our elected representative to the governance committee?
Motion to accept the first nominee to the governance committee.
All right, any seconds?
Motion to second.
Absolutely perfect. You know what? I think you're the perfect person to second it. If there's no opposition to this motion, I will wait for opposition to this motion because it is a pseudo-electoral motion. Is there any opposition to this motion or to consideration of the slate? scanning the room and seeing none. So we'll accept this as part of our slates for the governance committee, knowing that we have 2 additional slots. Those 2 additional slots will be filled upon the seating of the rest of our representatives following the special general election. Important note, because this is a slate and each of them counts as a pseudo election, we can approve them as a contiguous slate, as a single item. So this is an action. Do you approve the slates as documented by the Assembly for transmission to the Executive Committee? It requires a full vote of those members here. Once we get to 30 seconds, I will conclude voting on this measure.
What does present mean?
Present is anybody who is doing an abstain.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, sometimes I, unfortunately, working in the Senate, sometimes I switch the parliamentary procedure. So present is me doing a thing that is from government.
No, thank you for explaining that. It makes sense.
We'll wait 10 more seconds for votes. Seeing none and happily seeing a quorum, this slate is approved as documented by the Assembly for transmission to the Executive Committee and therefore the Chief of Staff. Micheline, our Chief of Staff, will have access to these records and begin working with you all to ensure that everyone is seated properly. We will also connect to make sure that everything is set up properly. With that being said, normally at the end of our sessions, especially when they're in person, our practice is to leave some space for us to kind of caucus and convene with each other to talk about things that are of interest. I don't have an announcement space on this slate because I wanted this meeting to move quickly so we could get done before 4:30. It is a 4:26 now, so that extra 5 minutes that I politely asked the Rules Committee for feels like a dub for me. I want to go ahead and make sure we don't need this because the full slate is not done. This qualifies as an adjournment, so this meeting adjourns pursuant to the bylaws and the call of the chair as well as the calendar. If there are additional special meetings that are necessary, a note that the president has the ability to use that power to call us back into session within a certain amount of days. If that does happen, Keegan is the one that communicates that, and I may communicate it to you or the DOO. With that said, is there anything that we would like for the Assembly to know? I will leave space for any final announcements in my adjournment. Go ahead. You're good, Sydney. Go ahead.
All right, Sydney, if I don't know if we're still in Roberts, but I just wanted to, being still on the elections, emphasize if you know people in your program, different programs, if you know people like in your front office, either on the department level or the school level, we are planning on sending out materials for elections and pushing for people to nominate themselves or others. If you guys could help push that word along and spread that word, that would be infinitely helpful. We want more people involved, both in the Assembly and on committees, so.
Yeah. That is so appreciated, Sydney. And actually what I want to do, I'm going to do something slightly adjacent because I think Rules approved it, but for some reason it's not written in here as new business. So underneath the election committee, in the reformation of the election committee, what we also need to do is approve the previous work of the elections committee. This is a vote for that space. So this, I know it says approval of the governance slate. This is a placeholder vote for the elections committee's work as of August 22nd. So as of today, you are aware, and I think you have access to the calendar and a few other items. It's also included in the slides. We just have to approve that as a full body. And this is for moving forward specifically with the special general election. Yes, Keegan. This does have a minimum quorum requirement, so we'll need to get to a certain number. Voting will be open for 15 more seconds. If you are within the sound of my voice and capable of clicking a button, I'd love to see you press yay, nay, present, etc. Again, this is to set our elections for the upcoming semester. Got 5 more seconds. Okay, perfect. So that is an exact quorum for us, given the size of the body. This does pass. Again, ignore what you see on the screen. It is a mirage, as I've said, and as is also documented in the chat. This is a vote specifically on moving forward with the special general election. I don't know why two of these had the same text, but that is a digression. As long as we have a vote and we have consensus on what that vote is understood to be, I am very, very grateful for your time. Well, now that we've had this conversation, these slides will not be used again, which is super great. I'm so tired of special general election slides. With that said, now I can say this meeting is adjourned pursuant to the call of the chair and the bylaws. Again, let me know if you have any questions. You'll also be added to a group chat later in this, either today, depending on when my computer decides to let me copy over the roster to our DOO so that we can get everything together. But you'll be getting more information from us in that chat. That group chat is useful for getting information to and fro about the body on a day-to-day basis. You'll see us talking and conversing in that space. And of course, because we are doing Robert's rules, we don't need a motion to adjourn. We simply adjourn as the calendar doth set. Welcome to GSG. I'm so excited to have you here. And I promise during normal meetings, everyone else talks way more. We just had a special meeting. So you'll hear less of me in September, okay? Check the calendar that you have in your agenda. I look forward to seeing you then. Bye. Gavel, gavel. I'm looking for that crab gavel. We have a crab gavel. If I can get it by September, it's on. We're gonna gong, gong, okay?